Hey, I'm LaRie.
And I'm Nick B.
And this is Dirty Roses Podcast, where two girls from the city of Roses discuss love, lust, and perception.
And we got two very different perspectives.
That's right, because my girl Nick B is a long-term habitual dater.
Oh, for real? That's what we're doing?
I mean, girl, it's facts.
Okay, you're right. And my girl LaRie was tied down and now newly single and don't know a thing about dating.
Dang, well, here we are taking our friends' dating stories
and having real life conversations.
Dirty Roses Podcast starts now. Hey, I'm LaRie.
And I'm Nick B.
And welcome back to Dirty Roses Podcast Season 2. Hey.
Season 2.
Hey, y'all, we did it, y'all. We got through a whole season, and now we back for another one. Y'all liked us so much. I'm excited to be here, and of course...
Me too.
I missed you over the last however long it was.
I know. I feel like I haven't seen you.
In like forever. Wink, wink. For those of y'all listening, we were over here making faces because we just seen each other not too long ago.
Right.
I'm excited because we're going to have some episodes with Nick B actually in studio, y'all.
You guys, I will be live and in effect. Okay?
It's going to be
Hope
fun.
You're ready.
I hope y'all are ready because I'm not. But it's going to be fun. Two of us together in one space. I know our producers are going to hate us, but it's okay because we're going to bring all the shenanigans to Portland live in effect.
All of them.
So we're just going to recap a little bit about last season, why we're here, what we're doing, what you can expect. And just so that y'all don't know, like in case y'all are just tuning in for the very first time with season 2 and did not listen to season 1, how do we get started? Well, Dirty Roses Podcast started because Nick B used to share her stories of her extravagantly exciting dating life with me. And I used to jot them down. Extravagant. Some of them were extravagant, exciting, scary, all those things.
Yes, all those
things.
Scary for sure.
Yes, definitely some scary moments. But she would share those stories because as you may or may not know, I was married. And I used to take her dating stories and listen to her and live vicariously through her singleness, and it was my way of having a good time. But I started to jot them down because these stories, I swear you cannot make these up. And so as I'm jotting them down, I'm like, I'm going to put this into a book. I'm starting collecting other dating stories from our other friends because I got quite a few single friends. And I was like, this is some good shit, y'all. Y'all want to hear this. And then the idea came to do a podcast, and here we are. And Dirty Roses kind of, you can tell what does Dirty Roses mean to you, Nick B?
So Dirty Roses, now this is an interesting topic because I know that in the past we've explained how we landed on this title. And for the life of me, I thought that I presented it, but I can't recall who actually.
It was me.
It? Are we sure?
We're positive because remember I was writing another book too, and they all have a rose theme. You wanted to have something about wine in the title. It was like
I have a whole separate company with a wine.
No, I know you have a
Barrel and Rose.
Yeah, that's what you have to get on that. But
so we're working on that.
But the title was something like you had a title of like wine colored glasses, or it was something. It was, but I have a couple books that I'm in the process of writing. They were all rose themed because we come from Portland. But Dirty Roses itself is not about the sex toy, although we can talk about that and it's exciting. And
no, we can't. You can. I have yet to
I gotta get you one. I need to get you one. Okay, that's gonna be my gift to her.
My birthday's coming up. 3 months.
It is. Okay, I'm gonna send you.
Oh my God, 3 months.
Oh God, you're gonna be 41. Can we count? She's holding up a 41.
Well, I'm trying to see if it's going which direction on.
Other way.
Is it in order? Does it say 14 or 41?
It says 14
on
mine.
I'm 14.
She's gonna be 14, y'all.
I'm 14,
so for those of y'all that can't see and are listening only, she's holding up fingers into the camera and it's backwards. It shows her immaturity. But Dirty Roses is about. Yes. Go ahead, Nicole. Nick.
So Dirty Roses, as LaRie was saying, she started working on short stories, essentially only from me, although yes, I contributed to a hefty chunk of the book she's writing. There are others that are sprinkled in there as well, but she's kind of like a bone collector. Leigh has always been one of these friends that is so easy to talk to and so trustworthy, and a lot of people just naturally confide in you, I think. Right? At least for me, that's how it is for me. So it's absolutely easy to not only share these dating stories, but really laugh about them because LaRie, you have this really lighthearted, funny way of finding kind of the humor in the BS, right?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
So we tell LaRie these stories. I know I told her these stories, and she was like, "Girl, I'm about ready to make this a whole bestseller," right?
That part.
So she's collecting these stories, collecting these bones, putting it down, and changing it. And evidently, she got her title because she wanted something that had to do with roses, and so she got Dirty Roses, and here we are. And I know that you were also talking about wanting to somehow get back into radio, and you had played around with podcasting for a while, and it's something I've wanted to do.
Yeah.
And of course, the backstory on Leigh, LaRie, and I, if you didn't have a chance to hear season 1, which you need to, season 1, episode 1 kind of helps you understand our relationship a little bit better. But yeah, we talk about how I essentially one day set over an outline, this is what you're going to do. This is how it's going to get done. This is what the show should look like. Let's go. And go we went. Okay. And here we are.
All of that.
Right.
All of that. So roses indicates love and relationships and romanticism, and you give a rose to someone on a date and all these things, but we tell these dating stories and they get a little dirty. So hence Dirty Roses. And we're from the city of roses. Now while Nick B is on the East Coast now living her best life in the Chocolate City area, I
don't even know if it's Chocolate City anymore, girl. It's gentrified city.
It's more chocolate than it is here in Portland. So I'm in Portland. She's in Virginia.
It's more chocolate.
Yeah. So, but we both hail from Portland. So that's how we got this title, and that's where it came from. So in case y'all missed season 1, y'all can catch that on dirtyrosespodcast.com, where you can listen to all of season 1 and catch up to what we're talking about today. But what has changed for you since season 1?
A couple things have changed. Essentially, I'm still single. I mean, I don't know if I'm still a habitual dater, but evidently I am.
We got to record a new intro.
We do need it. Can we put that on the docket list of things to do?
Producers take note.
Okay, because I'm just this habitual dater. Evidently, I don't even habitually date. I just don't happen to be in long-term relationships. Therefore, I continue to date. All right. So, since last season, have I dated? Yes, I have been on a couple dates with, I think, just the same person, one individual. It wasn't a match made in heaven, but that's why we date. We see how that goes. So I'm still habitually single. How about that?
Hey,
so,
HS.
Right. What about you, LaRie? Has anything changed so much since the beginning of season 1 for you?
Since the beginning of season 1, I have gone on a few dates. I have taken a few trips. I have entertained a few conversations. As y'all know, I recently divorced, so I am new to this dating game. I was in a relationship for a very long time at a very young age, and so I did not date. And so this is my reintroductory dating scenario. I don't know if that's a real word. I've been making up words because I'm smart.
I feel like that's the only way to relate to people.
Yeah, that makes us relatationists.
They understand these made up words.
Right. We talked about doing a Dirty Roses.
The
Relactability. We need a Dirty Roses dictionary. But yeah, I have entertained some conversations. I have got a few interested people, some folks. So it's been
anybody you're interested in? Any love connections for you? I mean, we can always have people say, "Oh, I think you're great," but have you? Is there anybody that you kind of low key keep your eye on?
There's a couple that I'm like, I could see it going somewhere if the feeling is mutual. I'm not quite sure if we're there yet in the conversations. I'm not, and again, I've told people I'm not looking to settle right back down again. I am just out of a 21-year relationship. Like, that's a fucking long time, and I don't want to jump back into an immediate relationship. However, I've told people I'm cool if it organically happens and it's naturally just the flow of how we're going with the conversations and the time spent and all those things. I have I would say a couple people that have expressed interest in wanting to lock me down, and I'm kind of pushing back a little bit on that.
Don't want to be locked.
I don't, and it's not anything to do with them. Honestly, they're like, I've got some amazing people that I've been conversing with, and not to say like I'm just out here like just sprinkling the coochie everywhere, but I am conversing with people. I'm talking with people. I am selective with my vagina.
Little coochie there.
You get some coochie.
You get some coochie.
Everybody
gets coochie. Going for coochie.
Oprah does not how that intended to happen with
That
her.
is one of her favorite things,
It is
evidently.
coochie, yeah. You're her Galen Stedman.
Okay.
So
Oh
I
God.
am, I am. I'm not keen to settling down right now. I am keen to getting to know people, having some nice moments, and figuring things out as they go.
Would you say that
Mm,
you are kind of living your 20s experience
I
today in
think
your 40s?
coming out of my divorce initially, when
Because
my
you didn't get to do this.
I did not party.
You missed the hoe phase,
I
you
missed the
missed the party phase,
I
you missed all the
did.
mistakes.
I did. I feel like I made a lot of mistakes. It was just with the one person. We partied, but it was with like their friends. It wasn't like I didn't have a lot of I had friends, but I had more acquaintances because I was in Alabama. We were in Alabama because we met in school. And he partied a whole lot. He was living his best life at the duration of our relationship for the most part. I was more of like the responsible one. I worked
Uh-huh.
I worked several jobs at one time.
You were just being that
I was
housewife.
full time student. We also took in his younger brother when his younger brother was like a low teenager, like 13. So
Mm-hmm.
I was playing mommy, to somebody else's kid. Like it was a whole. I was a whole
Yeah.
stay at home. Not even stay at home. I was a career mom, wife, person. Like before all of those things were actually real, for me
That's wild.
at a
That's
young
wild.
age. Yeah, and so I think once we got separated, I did a lot of partying, and I won't say like sexually. Like I wasn't out here doing a whole bunch of stuff sexually, but I was kicking it. I was out drinking. I was going
You was
to.
outside.
I was outside, and then I realized I was a little old. I couldn't hang. So you drink a little bit and fall asleep. So yeah, so I've calmed down on the partying piece of it. I think I went real hard. I think that was a lot of me masking also the hurt that I was experiencing at that time because divorce is not fun.
Yeah.
The breakup was very traumatizing. So I think
Yeah.
I was also masking that with some self medications and drinking a lot. So, going she over here popping goodies in her mouth. Okay, don't forget we on camera. Nick B is hilarious. But no, so I am living my best single life. I think that I am trying to adjust what I thought it was supposed to be to what it actually is. It's not quite, it's definitely not what it would have been in my 20s or my 30s
Right.
even. I'm 40. I turned 41 this year. So I think I'm doing it at its own pace. I don't know what to say.
No, I think you're exactly where you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
There's things that I think everyone should experience. There's lessons that everyone should
Yeah.
learn. And unfortunately, when you do get married and have so many different responsibilities at a younger age,
Mm-hmm.
you naturally miss out on some of those
Right.
things. And sometimes it's a blessing and sometimes it's not, but nonetheless, they're all tools,
Right.
that we use
That part.
to navigate and move forward. So you
Yeah.
know what, live your best
A
life.
a a
Whatever's next for you is next for you. So
that part.
I'm
That
here.
part.
I'm here to watch. I'm here to
Hey,
watch.
she's gonna make her own book. What to
I
do? What to
am.
do when you get married and what not to do. When the rose has
Right?
wilted.
When,
God damn
bitch, the
it.
rose died. Okay.
The rose died.
Ran out of petals.
New
Shit
rosebuds.
fell.
It's gonna be like the Beauty and the Beast rose that's just hanging there with the little
Ain't
petals
nobody
falling
planting
off.
no new roses.
Except the one that's rechargeable in the basket by my bed.
Oh my God. The
Nick
bucket.
B. I'm excited that we have as Dirty Roses as a unit. We've done a few things since season 1.
We have.
We
There's
did
been a few things we've done. Let's talk about
yeah.
that.
Well, first of all, we had a launch party, which we did talk about a little bit about in season 1, but we did it
Mm-hmm.
after we had recorded all the episodes for the most part. But it was a
Mm-hmm.
dope launch party. When I say it was
Such a
dope,
good.
it
Yeah.
was, we called it a Love
Really great
Jones.
feedback.
Yeah, we called it a Love
Mm-hmm.
Jones meets Love and Hip Hop vibe. It was like a lounge
Mm-hmm.
setting, but
Mm-hmm.
ratchet talk. It was fun. It was cute.
It was good. It was really good music.
Yes.
Really
Shout out to
great
DJ
food.
Stack.
Okay, who shout out our caterer as
Yes,
well.
LeBon Temps Catering brought the food and the
Mm-hmm.
drinks. It had a
Mm-hmm.
special drink called the Dirty Rose, which everybody got to try. We
Yes,
had
that
a
was
live
complimentary.
panel. It was
We did.
dope. The
And it was
lighting.
great because our live panel was also, they each had their own
Yes.
episode last season. So I believe that our audience got a chance to see who they were
Mm-hmm.
before they were able to really dive into their episode.
Yes.
So it created a really nice connection of, oh, I remember these folks from the launch
Right.
party.
Yes. Like
And we
shout
even
out.
got a lot of people that wanted to come back and do another event similar to that.
Yes, I'm thinking because we don't in Portland. I would say this: there's a lot of other podcasts that do live broadcasts or live recordings in front of studio audiences in other states where there's a bigger crowd. We don't have that here in Portland, and so I think a lot of people were excited about something different. It was a different vibe. Honestly, it was just a whole vibe. Shout out to JJT Studios where the event was held, and our guests.
She really set the mood. She helped us with the feeling that we want.
Yeah, there was the lighting was beautiful. If you go to our social media page, Dirty Roses Podcast, on all of our social medias, you can see some pictures from that event. It was a whole thing. I loved it. I want to do it again. I feel like we should do it in different states. Like we should come to DC and Virginia and do it. I think that would be dope.
I think that's something we for sure talked about. And I know it's kind of in the works. You guys should stay tuned for updates on that. We are in the works of getting something in other locations so that more people can experience what a wonderful event we put together.
Right. So that was amazing. And then we did some appearances virtually for some folks that were doing stuff in DC. Nick, I don't know if you want to talk about the cigars and conversations.
Yeah, so I actually had an amazing friend of mine that we both went to the same undergraduate school. We graduated different years, but we're part of the same alumni chapter. And that's how we connected. And she recently wrote a book, and she had some really great connections and invited us to Cigars and Cocktails where we were virtual guests. And we just talked all things love, lust, and perception. It was a great gathering of women that had different perspectives and ideas of what relationships were at all stages of them. So it was really fun to participate in that. And then LaRie came to DC and we did an in-person podcast with the Gary Gullah Show. If you haven't had a chance to check out that episode, you absolutely should. Links to that episode are on our website. And if you scroll about 30 minutes in or so is when we appear. They actually had 2 guests, and so we came in about halfway through. But it was a fun
Dirty
show.
Roses takeover.
What was your takeaway from that event, from that podcast?
Oh, first of all, we're fucking dope. I think we had the whole studio cracking up because, of course, we're just goofy as hell anyways, and we say what's on our mind. We talk about things that are taboo to other people. So I don't think that the guys, because it's a very male.
He wasn't ready.
He wasn't ready for us at all. And
we tried to warn him too.
We did. I asked ahead of time, like, hey, is there anything that's off limits? He's like, no, go for it. And I was like, are you sure? Because we go there. We went there, and you could see if you watched the YouTube, he was not ready for us.
Uncomfortable. He was like.
Yep. Shout out to Gary Gold because that was hilarious.
It was so much fun.
But we did have fun. It was fun to just be invited on someone else's podcast. Like that was cool. Even though we took it over as ours.
Well, we hope even for season 2 to have some other podcasts join us so that we can get just different perspectives and do some cross promoting with other people because you guys, there are some amazing dope Black podcasts. I mean, podcasts in general. But there's some really great podcasts that we would love to share with you and for you guys to tap into as well.
Absolutely. We did a live broadcast event here for the Black podcast, the Portland Black Podcasters, I think something like that here in Portland, hosted by the Numbers. So
listen, if you were not there, you're bad.
That part.
This thing was not only well executed, there was food, there was lighting, there was live music, there was great conversation. Like it was a whole vibe, and it was a free event.
It was a free event. It was all day with different podcasts doing live recordings. We had an hour-long session. We had invited some of our friends to talk about the different stages of relationships. So we had a newly married person. We had a person that was still single. We had a lady on there that has been married for 14 years and is a little bit older than the other audience, other panel members. So she had a little bit more wisdom into her and why she was married. So it was some great conversation, some great feedback, and we'll have the link to that at some point too for season 2 as a bonus episode. So I'm excited. But Nick B, let's talk about last season. Season.
Let's recap.
Let's recap. So we had some different episodes. Of course, we talked about our introductory episode, introducing Dirty Roses. We talked about ourselves, and we asked each other some good questions about some of our.
I love that episode, by the way.
I did, because we talked about like first kisses and
first kisses
how
and first dates.
Yeah,
my corduroys,
her corduroy and flannel jacket, her sweaty first kiss at the bowling out, like all kinds of stuff. It was great.
It was a show.
It was a show, and I enjoyed that one. But the next episode was Dating for Perks. And I think the funniest takeaway for that one was obviously the jacket, where Nick B shared that she did not date this person for a jacket, but she got a jacket out of dating this person. That was one of the funniest stories, getting caught at the club after graduation wearing the jacket and dancing with somebody else after uninviting the jacket purchaser.
You know what the funniest part about that is? Okay, let me just tell you. So I had a really great friend who was tuning into the show, right?
Oh, yes.
And he's listening and he's like, oh, this is dope. You're doing a podcast, right? So he listened to the first episode. You're amazing. This is wonderful. Love what you guys are doing. Gets to the second episode. Next thing I know, I'm getting a text message with a photo attached. And he was like, yo, this is the guy you're talking about, isn't it? I was like, yes, why did he resurface?
So this story is even more funny because in the story she tells, she uninvited the guy to her graduation. She uninvited him to the after party, which is where she got caught wearing the jacket, dancing with another guy. However, the photo that got sent was the guy sitting with her friends and family at the graduation.
He was in the mix.
He reinvited himself. Was like, oh, that uninvite must have been unintentional. And so it was so funny to hear that backstory and see the picture of the guy. Like, we can't post it.
Oh God, he was there. He was with my mom.
So there.
With my auntie.
He was like,
pops.
yeah.
I mean,
I bought that jacket. I bought that jacket. That was great.
I deserve to be here. You can't tell me I'm not invited.
Oh my God, that was such a funny story.
I about died when I got the photo evidence.
Did you know that he had came to the graduation?
And
sat with your family.
I actually don't remember because after graduation, you walk out,
right?
Everybody's throwing their flags, and you kind of go find your family and go take pictures. I don't have one photo with him in the aftermath of everything. I have everybody else that was invited. I had taken pictures with. He's not in any of my photos.
He's in other people. Which leads me to my thought that I still think he put a tracker in that jacket. Like,
oh my God, they didn't have trackers.
They
in
had
the early 2000s.
low jack. They did too. They had a whole song about putting a low jack on that hoe.
What did he do? Put a MapQuest directory in my pocket?
Yes.
No, ma'am.
There was a whole MapQuest.
This is before iPhones.
They have trackers back then. Believe me, I work for the government. They had trackers.
He tapped me. He tapped me.
It was in the button.
Hilarious.
That's how he found her at the club. But the next episode was really fun that we had our very first guest on, and it was Falling in Love with Potential, where we talked about dating an entrepreneur, dating somebody who wasn't quite where they needed to be, but had ambitions and goals. And we had two amazing guests. We had David Stack and Kicks Jefferson, which is a business owner here in Portland who has his own clothing brand and a store in the mall here called Lloyd Center. And then we had Charlisa Shadowbox Harris, who is a stylist of over 20 years. She creates her own products and her own she's like a marketing genius as far as social media goes. She's like, she's really funny and she's really freaking hilarious. And she was at a launch party on our panel, and she shared a great story about putting Alpo in someone's sloppy joes because she was being petty. So if you weren't there,
so that story was in the story of revenge and being petty. And of course, if you were not at the launch party, you didn't get the whole story. But the long and short of it is, relationship went south and she was like, I got you. I think he cheated on her. Was that what it was?
I think it was, yeah.
So she fixed her honey some dinner, some sloppy joes, absolutely mixed in dog food into his sloppy Alpine dog food. Okay. So men, listen, if you're going to do your dirt, you do not let your woman cook your meal. Okay.
I'm just going to say there's a few meals that men stay away from. One is spaghetti, which you've heard the rumors, like you don't do spaghetti because what the old wives tell is that women will put their period blood in spaghetti to trap a man. You never heard that? It's like an old wives' tale. Like if you put your period blood in a spaghetti meal, the man will then be madly in love with you and never leave your side and adore you. He will absolutely cut you. The minute that this spaghetti tastes like copper pennies, he's gonna be like, "What the entire fuck?" No. I've never done that, but I've only heard about it. So spaghetti was one of those meals, and we're now adding sloppy joes to that meal plan. Don't do it.
Nothing saucy. Don't do nothing saucy.
Nothing saucy. Nothing saucy. But I did like that episode. I like that episode because we talked about, the different ways that you date people who are entrepreneurs, like, you know, and both of us being entrepreneurs, because Nick B owns her own business as well, doing cupcakes and graphic design. I have my own catering business and other things that we do. So it was an interesting conversation that really talked about like best matches, best partnerships, what works, what doesn't work. What was your takeaways from that episode, Nick B?
Just, you know, navigating who's real and who's not, you know, really understanding that there's so many clout chasers, and really just trying to find that person that's there for you and not for how you can elevate them. It was the hardest part, I think, in being an entrepreneur, is that, you know, you start meeting people that are like, oh, you do this, you can introduce me to this and that. And especially when you start thinking about the degrees of separation, well, who can help you put me where I want to go?
Right.
That.
Right.
So that was my biggest takeaway, is just really vetting the person.
Absolutely. Hey, Smoke Dog. If y'all didn't know, Nick B's a cat lady, and her cats be making appearances in our podcast every now and then. Mostly just one of them, Smokey. He be showing his ass.
The girl, she got manners. It's the boy that don't know how to act.
It's hilarious.
I love him.
Y'all need to watch the YouTube. So go to YouTube and look up Dirty Roses podcast, and you'll catch Smoke Dog making his appearance.
Right. If you can tell me how many times Smokey's made an appearance, he might get a little.
We're gonna send you a shirt.
Nothing. you gonna get bragging rights.
I love it. We're gonna send you.
You gonna get a little nothing.
We ain't there in our podcast just yet. But no, the next episode was one of my favorite ones. She's so funny. I can't. But I love this next episode that we did with our friend Kev. And it was about prison bays. Now part of our shtick is that we share stories about that either come from the book that I'm writing or just from friends and things. And the story about this was like a girl that had dated a guy that was in prison, and he got out, whatever, and it fell apart. But Kev is like, you used to work at I guess a halfway house or a transitional home for people that corrections. He's in corrections in some way. And so he had lots of good, funny stories. But my takeaway from that was, don't block your blessings. There's always a man for you. He called him in his prison blues, or prison grays, or whatever it was, that's looking for love. But he shared some great insight on what to look for, what to avoid, what websites and dating apps to avoid. Plenty of fish.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. Apparently they're on there. Nick B, what was your favorite part of that episode?
Favorite part of the episode, of course, the don't block your blessings.
Yes.
And, you know, I apply that to many, many areas. It's not just don't block your blessings with inmates. Okay. That's really a very linear perspective on this. But if we're looking at the overall takeaway here is, you know, like, your prince in shining armor may show up in many different ways. And to not just kind of judge that book by his cover based on his past and where he's coming from. So I absolutely appreciated that takeaway. I don't necessarily know that my blessing is an inmate. I hope not. I hope my inmate is not listening to this podcast on the other side right now, like, yeah, girl, give me 36 more months, girl.
And I'm gonna take care of you. Yeah, I'm gonna take care of you. If you go back and listen to that episode, you're gonna hear about the one that's on his way escaping from prison, probably right now in an underground tunnel to get to Nick.
Such a lie. It's not.
Whole Shawshank Redemption.
I swear,
love
blowing
story.
Stuff out of proportion. No.
But you got to listen to that episode to find out that story, because it was hilarious. The next episode, probably our most talked about and shortest episode ever.
Oh God.
Crazy toxic love. In real time. You will have to, like, I think you'll hear it on the podcast platforms that we're on, but you have to go to YouTube and watch the episode.
And watch it. Because the audio is only
a piece of
half of the visual that you need to put this short episode into context. So I'm gonna put it out here because it wasn't made very clear when we filmed this. This is actually my brother.
Oh gosh.
Okay. And it wasn't made super clear. We were trying not to not associate us, but we were trying not to make it a brother sister dynamic where it's just like, oh, here go two brothers and sisters, you know, going back and forth because they've known each other their whole lives. Right. So I kind of stayed quiet as much as I could. Actually, I think LaRie took the horns on the majority of this episode.
I think that was Lord because the eye contact we were making and the way that we lost the conversation. I think that's why you didn't talk, because her facial expressions was like, what the entire fuck is happening right
because
now?
this boy is nuts. Respectfully, okay.
If you hear me,
if you hear me, but the best part, you got to sit back.
Right, and then come back to it. You know, you got to block it, unblock it.
And then come back to it and say something and then block him again. So what I'm saying is that yes, this is our shortest episode, but it is hilarious. It's funny, and it's the sad part is that it's really true. None of it is an act.
Right.
This is honestly how my brother functions.
And I'm gonna say this: it's
comedy.
It's comedy, but it's real life for him, and it's very mild to how he really is in real life. Like that was actually mild. And so when you see the episode,
that's Bane on a good day.
That part, what you'll notice about the episode. So all of season 1, our episodes were 45 minutes long. We actually upped it to an hour this season because the conversations have been so amazing. That episode was around 24 minutes. 23.
It was like 23 seconds and change.
Yeah, 24 and 23 seconds. Some change. That's how short it was. We don't typically edit our episodes. We kind of just run through the whole thing and chop off the beginning to end. That particular episode, you will notice that there is some edits and some come-ins and comes-outs. The reason why I'm going to share this because it's freaking hilarious is that episode had Michael Bain was our guest, and he was so passionate about the confusion that he was causing. He was slamming his hand on the table. Now, what you don't know in the studios, we have these like 5-pound microphones that are heavy as hell. That it takes like 2 hands.
Think
of
a KitchenAid.
Yeah, it's like a KitchenAid.
Think of a KitchenAid. Those heavy bass.
Yes. He was banging his hand on the table to make his point, which we still never got. So hard that my microphone kind of just hopped itself ass off the 3-foot tall table onto the floor. And they bless our producers who were able to edit out some of this stuff. But if you were in studio, you would have seen me like casually pulling my microphone up by the cord and sliding it back on the table while our guest Michael was still talking about whatever the hell he was talking about. And at that point, we had lost Nick B's audio. So you hear her in the background. You have to listen intently. Yes. She's in the background talking. Like, wait, what was that question? And she has no clue. We can't hear her. She's trying to engage in him while I'm pulling my microphone up. The producers had to come in and reattach it. And so you'll see bits and pieces of things that got chopped together because you'll hear her go out and come back in. And the sentence he's saying kind of trails off and comes back into a whole other topic. Crazy. It was a great.
It was the epitome of toxicity.
It was. He
exuded it. Yes.
But yes, that was our most viewed, most talked about episode. I guess
to this date, it is still our most viewed episode.
Y'all love train wrecks, and we'll try to give you some, not intentionally.
Who doesn't like watching a car accident? Who doesn't like to watch a car accident?
Dark. It's like those moments on reality TV when they get to fight and it's like a setup. Except for this was just real life. It just happened. And
can't make it up. You cannot make it up.
Can't make it up. But shout out to Michael Bain for giving us that good story.
Some content.
I'm telling you, the next thanks, bro. He's like a brother to me. Tries not to be, but he's stuck. We'll talk about the next episode, polyamory or polyfuckery, which was that
was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, it was a very asked about topic. So one of the guests, Jelani, was on our launch party. So he got to share a little bit about polyamory during our launch episode. And shout out to Kevin Kev, also, who was on our panel as well at the launch party. But Jelani got to share a little bit about polyamory and how he lives his lifestyle. He has a long-term partner, but they also invite other people into their relationship. Their dynamic is very much like it's always going to be another woman. It's never going to be another man. But he involves his long-term partner, his wife, in that process. But because of the controversy, I guess, around polyamory, that topic was one of the ones that we had the most requests for, the most feedback on, the most questions about.
Intrigue.
Yes. People who were actually maybe interested in living that lifestyle or interested in debunking the lifestyle. Like, it was just
a lot of people wanted to debunk it. A lot of people want to debunk it. A lot of people want to understand it. I found a lot of people want to participate in it, but aren't quite sure what it is and what it means. And I think what I took away the most is polyamory in the lifestyle isn't one specific cookie cutter example. There's different versions of it. And I think what it really boils down to is the rules that you set in your home.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding what is okay and what isn't. And so there's a lot of conversation, and we talk a lot about communication.
Yeah.
And especially in season 1, that the biggest takeaway is like misunderstandings and lack of communication. And it sounds like that the polyamorous lifestyle focuses heavily on that communication piece. What is okay, what isn't okay. But essentially we're agreeing to this lifestyle that's open.
Right.
That involves other people, and there's layers to it.
Right.
So yeah, we got a lot of interest.
Yeah,
on that
and
topic.
the other guest, Michelle Yemaya, was also on there, and she lives a polyamorous lifestyle, and she got to give a woman's perspective, which was very helpful for me to understand, because when you think of polyamory, you always are thinking of the male perspective. It's a man with multiple women, but she had the perspective of, she's been in a relationship with multiple men. She's been in a relationship with an actual married couple. Like, she had levels to her perspective that were helpful for us to understand the dynamics and the differences in how people live their poly lifestyles.
Exactly. So. And I think I remember having a conversation with someone after the launch party. And at the launch party, we did not have a woman representation for the topic of the polyamorous lifestyle. And I think the biggest misunderstanding is that it's modern day pimping and that it's all about men controlling the women and the men having these multiple relationships.
And so hypersexualized.
So it was really good having her on the show to say, actually, no, this is something I'm volunteering for. This is actually how I do it in my relationship.
Right.
Where it's just me and only one other man, and multiple men, but they don't date anybody else.
Right.
And so seeing kind of the flip side of that and understanding that, no, this is not just a male dominated relationship scenario, but it absolutely goes both ways.
Yeah. I think going into it, I really thought that it was a male dominated thing and that women accepted the lifestyle to avoid being cheated on. It was like, to avoid being cheated on. It was like, I get to be in the know, so my man's gonna cheat, so I might as well participate. And that's a lot of that was my misconception. And so I think I learned a lot during that episode to kind of change that thought process. The next episode we did was Safe Spaces, and we had Bahia and Patrick, who was a couple, and I would say like a high level functioning couple. Like they're executives, like they have like that Black excellence lifestyle that they live. But they were giving some really great tidbits on how they dated. Bahia in her relationship or in previous, she came out of a long-term marriage as well, so her and I had some similarities. Had not dated a lot. Did not date a lot, don't have a lot of partners, don't have a lot of dating experience, and where I feel like Nick B and Patrick had kind of connected where that they had dating experiences, and so they were able to kind of give that perspective. But it was nice to watch their dynamic, because I know Bahia from a professional standpoint. She's very much a go-getter. She's very much an ambitious woman, put together. She's, in charge. She's in control. But to watch her not be submissive in like a negative way, but like in a way that was like, it was very feminine. And we talk about femininity and masculinity in relationships and behaviors, whatever.
She allowed him to lead.
Yeah. And it was a very interesting dynamic, and he very much led the conversation during that show, I feel like, which was interesting. I loved what they talked about, having the conversations about what they liked, what they didn't like, having the Q&As, ahead of time. They had questions that they asked each other that were really great prior to committing to the relationship. And they also talked about when they decided and how they decided that it was actually a committed relationship, because at one point they weren't clear. One person may have been more clear, one person may have not been. So they explained that thought process and how they came to their relationship. What was your takeaways?
I think what I liked most about this episode is that prior to this, we had focused a lot on toxic relationships or unconventional relationships, and laughing and joking a lot on things that go wrong in a relationship. Yeah. And what I really enjoyed about this was celebrating the things that go right.
Absolutely.
And how to make them go right. And so I thought that was a nice, fresh take on not all relationships end in crazy chaos. And, here's a way that this particular couple, because understanding that what works for one doesn't work for everyone, but this one particular couple has worked through, differences, misunderstandings, levels of communication, where they are in their life professionally as personally. And so that was a really kind of refreshing reset for the rest of the shows we then had for the remaining of the season.
That part. I love it. We then went on to Friends with Benefits with Paulina. And she had an interesting take, which I think differed from what people traditionally think as friends with benefits. Like, she had a very interesting take on what was considered a friend and what was considered a friend with benefits and what was considered more of just like a fuck buddy or a hookup. And so it was interesting to hear that because she had been in that stage of her life where she had, Smoke Dog is coming back. Smoke Dog's coming back. She got that water bottle.
He's chill. I had to look.
I love it.
He was giving me that eye.
He was. He's right. He said, "I'll tell you about a friend with benefit."
Right. He's like, "Here I come."
Hey, Smoke Dog. But it was interesting because, you know, my interpretation of friends with benefits was like somebody that you're cool with, that you hook up with occasionally, but you're not in a relationship. It's not a commitment, but it's somebody that you could like chill and hang out with and be friends with, but you just fuck every now and then, right? And I feel like her perception was like, she said she's not friends with anybody that she was having hooking up with, even though in that time she had decided that she had become celibate, so she was speaking from past experiences. But it was just interesting to hear that. I don't know, Nick, what did you think about
it? So it's funny, I'd say this topic spurred the most dialogue amongst my family over any other episode. So my family, huge fan of the show, and I know my brother, my sister, brother-in-law, mom, aunts, okay, they've all tuned in and they've watched. And we were actually driving, I think, to the beach this past year. Okay. And I decided to play this episode over the car because my younger brother, Mike Banks, excuse me, he does not like Mikey. Michael Bain. He had not heard this episode yet. And so Mom and I had already watched it and we'd been talking about it. Okay. And so we started to rehash this episode again. Okay. And I was like, Bang, what do you think? And he's like, well, I haven't heard it yet. Boom, we play it. We're talking about it. Heated debate in the car over what a friend with benefit actually means. And all three of us had a completely different idea of that title, which was also different than hers. Oh, wow. My mom was like, that's not a friend with benefits. She's just hooking up. She admits she's not their friend. Right. And I'm saying that is her definition. Therefore, it is what it is. And my brother was like, F all that. She just out there tricking and thinking and thoughting, right? And I'm just like, okay. Toxic. Y'all. Hell, right. And so it was just, I think, how we ended our debate. We actually pulled my sister in. We called her for a fourth opinion, which settled nothing.
It just added a whole nother opinion to it.
Right. I mean, when I say we debated, I looked it up in Urban Dictionary, friends with benefits, to get an actual title, example, explanation. Right. And so we did conclude that what she was doing, based on the Urban Dictionary definition, was not so much friends with benefits. It was more like friends, it was benefits with acquaintances. Oh. Because she acknowledged that she purposely did not establish relationships with them, friendship, because she didn't want to have that emotional connection tied to the physical connection. Right. She needed them separate. Right. It was a really interesting episode to listen to what works for her. Right. And my biggest takeaway is, again, what works for me doesn't have to work for you, and vice versa. If this makes you happy in your life, by all means, girl, go on, do your thing. Right, right. So it was a good episode.
It was a good episode. Moving from that part, we went to sexual compatibility, which I thought was a fun episode. And it's funny because the story behind that episode landed us with all of us taking these sex tests and sharing our results, because Nick B had this hilarious story about, I mean, it's hilarious to us, but maybe not to her, about a guy who presented her with a BDSM test to see where she was at. Yeah. He took notes on her results.
Because that was his lifestyle.
Because he lived a BDSM lifestyle, which she found out later on into their engagement. Not engagement, marriage, but just in their interactions. And then he later presented her with a contract about how she behaved within their relationship and what the punishments were. So it was an interesting thing because she realized at that time that was not what she wanted sexually. And so,
I mean, anytime you have to communicate with the guy you're hooking up with via email, so that there's a paper trail and copy and clear understanding of conversations that were like it was a work related email or something, leaving a paper trail of what we discussed. I don't know how healthy that is.
But
I don't know that I
it
want.
sounded like he was coming from experience, like the Me Too
Oh
movements and
yeah,
all those things. Like you have to be very clear, especially when you're doing that particular lifestyle, because there are things that happen within BDSM that can be perceived as abusive or other, and if you don't
I
have a
just took it as
clear,
incredibly controlling.
yeah, yeah,
I hear what you're saying as far as basically covering your own ass and making
right,
sure that should she ever try to say that something happened
right.
unconsensual, well, let me go back into my emails and it says here on Thursday at 7:58 p.m. you
Oh
know,
gosh,
on the
oh gosh,
16th of May
yeah,
that, oh no, she agreed to these terms and conditions.
yeah,
I can understand I can understand
yeah,
that piece of
yeah.
it, but I also recognize that when that was his preferred method of communication, when we were talking about
Mm,
anything personal, it
right.
felt very detached, very unpersonalized, very clinical,
Because he's
and
probably a
less
dominant, right?
emotion.
Was he a dominant?
He's a dominant, yeah,
Okay, gotcha. And
and
so,
he was looking for someone submissive.
gotcha. And so, in taking these tests, and we had some great guests on there. We had Shalee and then Mr. Marcus, one of Nick B's friends. We brought him on, and it was funny. His name is Marcus, but we called him Mr. Marcus, and that was the joke for the
All
whole
the R's,
episode with the hard
all the
R's,
R's.
all the R's. But we all took the
Oh,
test, and we all shared our results about
yeah,
what we had. We talked about one of the answers being a vanilla person, like, and we were like
yeah.
how that
That
was
was the most common.
it was, and we talk about that being offensive but not offensive because in BDSM you're doing all kinds of freak nasty. I mean, the test asks questions like, do you like to dress up as a child? Do you want someone to growl during sex? Do you want someone to lock you up in a cage and feed you from a bowl? Like, those were things that were on the test. And so when we compare that to just regular, oh, choke me a little bit, pull my hair, we're vanilla. You know what I'm saying? And we accepted the vanilla aspect of our results. But it was a good conversation about, making sure that you, again, communication about what you like, what you don't
Uh-huh.
like, expectations of sex, what works,
Yep.
in relationships. Is sex important in relationships? It was a good conversation, I feel.
It was a good conversation. I think that from that, even prior to that, we've had so many people be like, hey, send me that test
No,
though.
we have
Send me
given that
that
test
test.
a lot. And we'll post it again on our social media
Listen,
because
yeah, and
you learn a
it's
lot.
a great conversation
It
piece, if
is.
nothing else. And it seems like such a weird way to start off a conversation with your significant, someone that you're
Uh-huh.
thinking of being intimate with or have already been intimate with.
Mm,
But it's a great way to just sort of break the ice, to
yeah.
have those conversations, especially because I think, I don't know how it is for men. I can't really speak for men, but I
Right.
know that women sometimes we are reluctant or even afraid to share what we like sexually,
Right. Right.
because the cloud is the overcast is that, oh, you're a freak, you're a hoe, you're, why do you like,
Mm-hmm.
how have you, who have you tried these things with, why do
Right.
you want to try this? And so then, it's like when we kind of think in a traditional structure that those things
Mm-hmm.
are supposed to be private and those things are supposed to be not hush hush, not spoke about.
Right.
But I think today women are absolutely taking control of their sexuality and what they want, and
Absolutely.
this is a great way to help them articulate
Mm-hmm.
their needs.
I think one thing I
Men
found
too.
that part, and I think one thing that I found since even doing that episode, and really just since doing this podcast in general, because you and I have these conversations, and during the podcast, we are very open about lots of things
Yeah.
that are kind of taboo. People don't talk about them, they're uncomfortable. They shy away from these conversations, but we're adults. We can talk
Yeah.
about stuff and it not be taken the wrong way. You don't have to be judged about what you talk about or what you like, what you don't like. But what I have found is a lot of men that have approached me via inbox have taken to the fact that because I talk so openly about lots of sexual things, that I'm some kind of sexual
Uh-huh.
deviant. Like I'm a freak. Like I'm like, oh, I'm going to live out my freak nasty fantasies with you because you talk about it. And I'm like, no, I'm just an adult who can have a conversation.
So, and I'm the exact opposite. So you and
Oh,
I are essentially having the exact same conversation on air. And
right.
I don't know if that's really what it is that's making them think that of you. Okay, I'm not saying they're wrong for however they think that
Right.
you're a freak. I'm not saying that what they that you being open and talking about it is.
Right. Right. Right.
But on a completely if we're looking at a level playing field and
Uh-huh.
you and I are both on the same show having the same conversation,
Right.
I am absolutely not getting the same feedback.
Interesting.
and we have common friends,
right,
and we have common platforms, obviously.
right.
So it makes me wonder. It's like, well, is it really that guys
Mm,
think that, oh, LaRie is open to having these conversations, she must be promiscuous?
right.
Or is it a different energy in general? I'm curious,
I
because
don't
if that's
know.
the truth, it's complete opposite on my end.
Do I give off a sexual energy?
Well, I mean, I don't want to have sex with you,
Oh,
but
damn it, Nicole. I don't.
I know I'm just not in
Oh,
the mood
man.
for.
Oh, my God. But no,
But
seriously.
but yeah, no, this is a serious. I mean, like, this
Yeah,
is actually very interesting,
right.
because I'm curious too what it is that guys are like. Oh yeah, let me send LaRie unsolicited pictures of
Oh, yeah.
my
Dick.
junk,
Just say
my
it, dick. I get lots of dick pics,
dingling,
unsolicited dick pics. I get lots of
tallywhacker,
them. And I will say,
slanger.
I'm a very discreet person, so I will typically, whatever people talk to me about, I will hold personal. However, if you send me a dick pic and you are raunchy and out of pocket with all of that, I will absolutely show my friends your dick pic. I have lots of dick pics that my friends have not seen, but if you are an out of pocket ass motherfucker and you are disrespectful to me, your dick pic is getting shared.
Oh
I may
God.
not post it, but I do share it with my friends.
Yeah, we can't post it, because that right there would be a whole lawsuit.
That
You know what I mean?
revenge porn. However, I've gotten dick pics.
Right.
I've
Can't have
gotten dick
that.
videos that I will never share with anybody because it was personal. I mean, I'm not opposed to receiving dick pics. I think they're very entertaining, and I've learned a lot about dicks apparently by seeing these. Like I didn't know, just like I didn't know vaginas came in so many different shapes and sizes and
I only knew they
ways.
came in so many different variations because, like, there was I think, a chart I saw online of shapes.
Yeah, I
and
learned that
and
from
I was, because obviously I've never seen
other
any other
vaginas.
woman's
She's like, I've only
other
seen
vaginas
mine.
outside. I mean, outside of porn, but those are porn
Porn vaginas.
crotches. I don't like the word PS. Yeah. Um. Yeah. So those are different. Those are manufactured. Sometimes they've been,
Yes.
little razzle.
It's a little
Okay.
razzle
So it's like, I
dazzle,
can't take
glitter and
little razzle
shit.
dazzle. I can't take the ones in professional videos too serious, because that's what they. Of course, they have cream of the crop crotch. You know what I mean? That's why they're on film.
Or completely obliterated crotch. I don't know, whichever one, you know what I'm saying? But
Cream of the crop crotch. I think that's a thing. That's a thing now. Cream of the crop crotch.
cream of the crop crotch. Say that 5 times fast. Lord have mercy. But that
Cream of
was
the
one
crop
of our
crotch.
episodes talking about sexual
Yeah.
compatibility. We ended season 1 with one of our good friends, Mr. Sam Seasoning Thompson, who is like a
Yeah.
local promoter here in Portland, does a lot of community work and other things.
Uh-huh.
But because of his experiences with club promotions and out of town event planning and all these things that he does, and he's very well known in the community and just publicly here in Portland. We had an episode about OPP, other people's property, other people's penis, other people's pussy, pussy, pussy.
What's the crotch word I just used?
The cream of the crop crotch.
Cream of the crop crotch.
But it was just the episode. We intended it to be about like people, wanting to date people that were in relationships, people that were who didn't care about who you were attached to, whatever. We did get really off topic on that episode because we got sucked into Seasoning's stories of neck bone at the back of the club and
behind the scene events.
behind the scene
Yeah.
events and activities. But it was very entertaining. I did learn a lot about women in Portland and what they would do for a free event ticket.
Man, some of them be free.
Girl,
and they still do something.
Like, I want to have sex to get in this free event.
Right.
But yeah, but a lot of information about clout chasing, a lot of information about women who just they see somebody who's of status and they want that person. They want to change that person. They want to be the one that locks that person down. I think you had mentioned the whole thing about women wanting to be the exception because I know this person is a certain kind of way and he's not going to be that way with me, and I'm going to be the one to change him. So that was like kind of like my big takeaway from that episode was, you get who you get, and when a person tells you who they are and when they give you who they are, you can't change it. You can accept it, you can fuck it, you can give them neck bone in the back behind a curtain by the sound system. but you're not going to change him unless he wants to be changed or unless he wants to change.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think
that was my takeaway too.
Yeah, I think it was a good way to end the season too. It was funny. We learned a little bit more about season than we had anticipated. He don't like talking during sex. So
he doesn't.
That was,
and don't give no tequila.
And no tequila, because he'll be Magic Mike on the table for tequila. But all in all, we had a really good time with season 1. It was so fun. We're so excited to bring you season 2. We have some really amazing topics coming up, like sexual health and the double standards in bisexuality. We've got Big Burr from the Zeus Network. He was hilarious, amazing, completely, always dripped out. You know what I'm saying? He's always dripped out in his style. We had a good friend, Jazzy, who also gives a woman's perspective on bisexuality. Nick, what are some of the topics that we got coming up that you're excited about?
Actually, I'm looking forward to the one with our male dancers.
That one is pretty hilarious. Chronicles.
The Scripper Chronicles. And I think that it was just kind of interesting because a lot of, especially men, they believe that most men who dance for money, private dances, that they're a little sweet, but we definitely learned that is not the case, at least not with the two that we had a chance to interview. And they're funny. They are hilarious.
They are so funny.
So that was a fun show.
And that was one thing that we didn't share. We did. Dirty Roses has been doing male reviews now. We did a male review.
We
did one. We did a male review. It was amazing.
And there's one coming up.
And there's one coming up on July 14th here in Portland. They can get tickets at it's Dirty Roses 2. Or is it Dirty After Dark 2? Dirty After Dark 2.eventbrite.com. But you can also go to our social medias and find the links. We'll share the link there too. But and shout out to Major League Promotions and Major League Promotions Exotic Nights, who is helping promote these events. Because
ladies, you will have a good time.
And
a good time.
The two
it's
guys.
Great for
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's great for if you're having a bachelorette party, if you are just having a girls' night, if you want to roll solo. And then also because LaRie and I are two very different participants in these types of male reviews. I'm more of I would rather sit in the back and observe without being, danced on. You can be that person. But you can also be an active and willing participant in the front row. Too. So LaRie, you were going to mention that our guests, they are actually they're coming for this event.
The two fellas that we interviewed for the Scripper Chronicles episode are actually dancers that will be at the event. So you got to watch that episode. Check them out because fine.
Go get you a Superman.
Hilarious. Okay, Superman had his little buff muscles out. Slow motion had me cracking up with his hookah.
I just want him to be my friend in real life.
He is that person who is a good time. Absolutely a fun fucking time. He's hilarious. But those two dancers will actually be here on July 14th. We'll be at stage 722. So make sure y'all check us out. Get the tickets ahead of time because at the door it goes up a little bit and you're not guaranteed seats. But a good fucking time.
Some other
levels of dating. We talked about the different levels of getting into dating with Alex Green Sr., who is an ex-NFL player, author, motivational speaker, and he had some really good insight about what it looks like to be at the talking stages, at the I'm kind of committed stages, the dating stage. It was a good male perspective that we kind of didn't think about. We had a list that listed out steps or the stages of relationships or dating or whatever. And his was very different. And so it was a good conversation to kind of identify what a guy is looking for and what a guy thinks is a committed relationship. Behaviors that they give you and energies that you're supposed to feel and not know and talk about, but
evidently. And I think it was a good example of the miscommunication generally between men and women.
That part.
I don't know. So we did use a list to kind of help guide this levels of dating. It was pulled off the internet, and I don't know the actual author of the internet, but I dare say if I were to go back and read who wrote it, I'm sure it came from a woman.
Right.
And I say that because us speaking with Alex, his idea of wherever you are in dating was very different than this one.
Yeah.
And where Leigh and I, we were like, oh yeah, that seems about on point. That seems about right for this step.
Right.
You know, our steps looked way different than his. And I think what we realized is like, man, there's just a lot of misunderstanding, especially in the beginning stages when you're not communicating as much because you don't even know if that person deserves the communication yet.
Right. Yeah.
Do I owe this person an explanation? Am I really trying to spill out my expectations and I'm just meeting you now?
Right. Right.
A lot of that happens in the beginning.
Yeah, so it was a good, interesting conversation. You learn a lot. Like if you're trying to date Alex, you know you got to be on a very energetic, energy feeling vibe.
You need to feel his energy. You need to feel his energy. If you don't
he ain't
feel
gonna
his
tell
energy,
you.
y'all don't go together. He's not gonna tell you, and if you don't feel it, you don't go together. Okay?
That is hilarious. One episode that I'm super excited to air was the dating after divorce with our homegirl Nick, who had a very public divorce experience, and she talked about her healing, her glow up. I could relate clearly because it was, personal to me. Like I could relate to that, but she gave so many great tidbits for you to take away on how to heal.
Yeah, let me tell you, Nikki was amazing. She very funny, great tips. She absolutely gave a very personal touch to what happened with her and her marriage, how she felt during it, after it, and essentially what she did to heal, to move forward, and acknowledging where she's at today. Yeah, it's a good thinker. I'd say if you're looking for an episode where you're gonna laugh, but if you're really looking for some points to take away and think on, that's an excellent show to tune into.
Absolutely. We got the episode about doing bad all by ourselves, where you coming out of a toxic relationship or a bad breakup and how to heal from that. I think we got us a new hashtag from that episode. So I'm excited with our girl LaShay out of New York was a great guest for that episode. Nick. Like what else do we got? We have the crazy dating scenario.
What else we have coming up? Yep.
The crazy. And then we're going to talk about a good topic that kind of plays on the OPP episode, but the dating married men has been kind of a recurring theme that has been asked. Like what happens when you're dating a married man? What's your role? Do you, it's a whole lot of questions around that. So we're going to
how'd you find yourself in it? Yeah.
That part, so we're going to rehash that topic, kind of, a segue from OPP, but also just a highly requested topic. And we're going to be diving into that. Nick B, I'm so excited for season 2. I cannot wait for everybody to hear this. And where can they find you?
So, of course, as usual, you can track me down on any platform where Dirty Roses podcast is being featured. May that be our website or our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, any of those things, message us, guarantee you, LaRie or myself, we're going to read it. We're going to respond. Yeah. But if you need me specifically, you want to DM me, if you want to send me some dick pics, because evidently I don't get any.
She needs some dick pics.
Not, I please, I'm really dry over here. Okay. I send them to me at my Instagram. That's Nick_Nick B, and that's Nick with a K. Okay.
And Dick with a K too.
Dick with a K.
I can't.
And
that is great.
Dick with a K.
Oh my God. Y'all can
find me.
Yes, y'all can find me.
Where do we find you?
Yeah, they can find me. And y'all send dick pics as well. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. LaRie on all social media platforms. LeighlaRie on all social media platforms. Again, Dirty Roses Podcast on all social media platforms. You can find us on dirtyrosespodcast.com, where you can catch up on all of season 1 that we just talked about, and you can start catching these season 2 episodes. You can watch the videos where Nick B is going to be in the studio with us, and we'll have some bonus footage and everything else. Shout out to our producers at GMP Podcast Group, Naeem and Justin. They are so fucking dope. And if y'all are interested in getting a podcast, check them out. We'll get you a link and you can come in here and do some podcasts. You ain't got to even be in the studio. Y'all can be somewhere else and they can help y'all with your podcast. So make sure y'all check them out. Okay. We get some merchandise coming soon. You know what I'm saying? I love it. We got glasses. Yes. Shout out to Miss Ebony Price with her making our Dirty Roses glasses. I'm excited for season 2.
And
I can't wait.
If you haven't already liked and subscribed shared, please tell a friend to tune in, because it's an amazing show. There's a lot of relatable topics. Yes. Be a good friend. Share your shit.
Tell your friends to get with our friends, and we can be friends. Okay. All right, y'all. Okay. We about to get hella dirty for season 2, so we can't wait, and we'll catch y'all next week.